in other words, keeping your eye open for false claims of impossibility can be very important.
Yes, indeed.
Communications, I love one guy's remark. Who would sit and watch a picture in a wooden box? So would a telephone be? There's nobody to call.
Right.
So what I'm saying is that my basic mantra is technological progress comes from doing things differently in an unpredictable way. The future is not an extrapolation of the past. You have to change how you do things. And anybody who thinks you can know the future just by saying, well, this is what we've been doing up to now, so this is what we'll be doing in the future, just keep on going.
Yeah, exactly.
It's wrong. You know, a laser is not just a better light bulb, entirely different physics.
Right.
A nuclear rocket is not just a better chemical rocket, it's entirely different physics. And also, we sometimes see the fallacy of comparing the latest model of the old technology with the first model of the new one. Of course it can't compete yet. You haven't spent the money on it yet. You know, the first automobile wasn't a very practical device.
Yes.
But, well, and you remember, of course, that trains, if they go 50 miles an hour, you won't be able to breathe.
Exactly.
That was not an experimental fact, you understand.
Right. Yeah, we've come a long way, haven't we?
Yes.
Yes, indeed. So how do we get a hold of this book? Like I said to you earlier, this book is slated for June.
Well, I'll have copies by then. It'll be available in all the bookstores, of course.
Yeah, all the large chains?
Oh, sure. Chapters I'm signing in Fredericton on June 19th. But they can also get it from my website, www.stantonfriedman.com. You can get all my books. There are bargains, and everything you get from me is autographed. And as a matter of fact, the books by Kathleen Marden and I, we have book plates, so you get both autographs, believe it or not.
Oh, wow, that's amazing. Are you folks doing a book tour as well?
I don't know. Well, we'll be doing lots of radio and television, and we'll be talking down in Roswell and at the MUFON conference in later July in Denver and other places. And depends on how things go. You know, if we get lucky with our publicity and the company wants to spend some money. You know, book tours are kind of funny. When Whitley Strieber got $1 million advance for his book, Communion, the publisher undoubtedly said, well, you know, we spent a lot of money on this book. We better make sure that the word gets out. They had him do over 200 television programs.
Good Lord.
And you know what? The book sold like hotcakes.
It did, too.
It's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
That's
because
right.
a not well-known book, well, there's no point in spending a lot of money on PR because nobody cares, so we won't. And you know what? They're right, too. It didn't sell very good.
Exactly. I have a copy of Whitley Strieber's books, too. I just love them. What is the next big story in ufology right now, Stan?
All right, so we'll leave it there on that cliffhanger, and you can hear the answer to that question when we return from a commercial break. And stick around, because this is the end of the interview. You don't want to miss the last few words of Mr. Friedman. Of course, this book is out in bookstores all over the place already. This being the middle of July, I recorded this interview in May, and so go check it out at your local bookstore, everywhere, globally, on the internet and in your bookstores. That being said, Stan should be getting ready to go to that Roswell conference, although I think it may have just happened last week. And you know, when I've always wanted to go down to Roswell, New Mexico, to be at Ground Zero, not only for the, mostly for you know, Area 51 and the amazing sights that used to be seen in the early 90s, but also just to hang out in the desert. I'm a bit of a desert freak. I love the heat. Something about those beautiful mesas and, you know, the history behind the indigenous cultures and that, you know, in those parts of the Americas and beyond. Because I always also wanted to stay in that little alien, you know, on the extraterrestrial highway, rightly so named in the early 90s because of all of the hubbub and to-do surrounding the Roswell story brought to all of us by wonderful scholars like our hometown hero, Mr. Stanton Friedman. So stick around. Let's listen to the end of this interview. We still got a lot coming up. It's a whopping episode. This is huge. We've got a brand new segment coming up with the lovely and amazing and talented Miss Sylvia Richards on her first installment of Calendar of the Paranormal. And we got the Exopolitical Pulse and so much more. Stick around. This is the Unified Field.
Hi, this is Mastercraft, and you're listening to CKDU 88.1 FM in Halifax.
I'm David Suzuki. The average lunch or dinner travels 2,400 kilometers to get to your table. Eating local means combating global warming. The future is on your table.
Eat your way to a healthier planet. Find out how at davidsuzuki.org.
Tune into Radio America every week to count down CKDU's Top 30. Radio America airs Mondays from 1:30 to 3:30 p.m. on CKDU 88.1 FM or online at ckdu.ca.
Six-More Radio, CKDU 88.1 FM.
You are listening to the Unified Field.
All right, welcome back to the Unified Field. I'm your host, Mr. Justin Brown, and this is Atlantic Canada's only paranormal radio broadcast on the world's greatest radio station, folks. Let's be honest here. 88.1 FM on your dial locally here, broadcasting from Dalhousie campus in beautiful and coastal and usually foggy. Well, I shouldn't say usually. Beautiful Halifax, Nova Scotia, right here. CKDU, everybody. Welcome back to the Unified Field. I probably should have gave you guys a disclaimer before the episode started that, there's a bit of, an audio issue with the episode. It gets a little peaky sometimes, and I apologize for that. I had a bit of an issue with the recording software there at the studio, and so I had to record everything through my mic on my Mac. And as wonderful as Macs are, mics in general, you're going to pick up room sound and this and that, so I had to constantly readjust the volume because this little speaker on the phone was peaking and this and that. Anyway, enough excuses. Let's get back to the interview. It's wonderful. It's about the content anyway, everybody. So let's get in gear. Let's listen to the finale and see what Stan says about that question I posed to him about what's new on the horizon in ufology and where he wants to go from there. All right, let's kick it.
What is the next big story in ufology right now, Stan?
That's a good question.
Is there anything new that you're following that you're just head over heels for?
No, although what I'm hoping for is that more people in the know will make those deathbed confessions.
Right.
You know what I mean? Retired General Thomas Jefferson Dubose, who was with General Ramey in his office when Ramey said, "Oh, it's just a radar reflector weather balloon."
Yeah.
When I managed to locate Dubose, and he was in his 80s, and I met with him. He's in my film Recollections of Roswell, which has testimony from 26 people. It's on the website.
Okay.
My last conversation with him, he said, "Stan, I like what you're doing. If I remember anything more, I'll tell you. What can they do to me now?" In his late 80s. So we need some more people like that who say, I'm so fed up with this government not telling us what's going on, and I don't have long to live. I might as well tell it like it is. And if we can get enough people to come forward, we may be able to break it that way. In other words, we need a Woodward Bernstein on the UFO scene with insider sources and, somebody funding the research. The problem, I should add, a particular problem is that the media seems to take the view. I've had a good press. I'm not complaining about me, but
yeah.
The media seems to take the view that we know about what's going on when it's important.
Mm-hmm.
If aliens were visiting Earth, that would be important. But if it were important, we would know about it, and we don't, so it must not be, and we're not going to waste any time covering the subject.
Yeah.
That's the New York Times approach, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, how do you feel about the National Press Club and Stephen Greer's work? I mean, he is bringing
I'm not a big fan of Greer Costner or Stephen Bassett, they don't realize the national security implications.
Right.
They have exaggerated some of their observations. He's made claims about briefing people where one of the guys who was head of the CIA said, we were at a dinner party. It wasn't a briefing. And I've heard him speak, and as a matter of fact, Halifax's Paul Kimball did a movie, Do You Believe in Magic, M-A-J-I-C, about Majestic 12 and all this stuff, and he was at a MUFON conference and tried to talk to Steve to get his opinion and decided not to use him because he didn't know enough to be able to say something sensible. The subject. Steve cared about Steve, and what illustrates the problem is he offered you could go spend a weekend on his farm in Virginia. It would only cost you $600, but you'd have to find. He'd tell you everything you knew, but you'd have to sign a non-disclosure agreement. This is the head of the disclosure movement saying you got to sign a non-disclosure agreement. That's a little weird.
I've heard of this. You know, it's funny. I actually have a copy of Do You Believe in Magic, and I think the other one that I bought was Flying Saucers Are Real. Is that your other DVD?
Well, I've got
Flying
Saucers Are Real. I've got UFOs Are Real, which is an old documentary. Flying Saucers Are Real is much more recent. Some of it was shot at the Cape.
Yeah, that's right. I actually bought them from you personally when you spoke at the UFO Symposium here in Halifax.
Good.
Yeah, I was a nerdy little kid with glasses and just salivating over your lecture. Stan, I don't want to take up too much of your time for today. I hope we can do this again sometime. Do you mind?
Sure. Let's see what happens in the next few months.
Absolutely, that's
It'll be
great.
Exciting.
Oh gosh, this is a big time for you with a new book coming out. Science Was Wrong, co-authored with Kathleen Marden.
Yes.
You know what? And there's never enough time, Stan.
No, but it keeps the interest level up. Wait till next time, folks. We'll talk again about new stuff.
That's right. Well, thanks a lot, Mr. Friedman. We'll talk again soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Well, there you have it, folks. Mr. Stanton T. Friedman, a UFO researcher legend, right in our own backyards. Right in our own backyards. New Brunswick, Canada. So we want to thank Mr. Friedman for being on Atlantic Canada's only paranormal news broadcast, The Unified Field. His new book is entitled Science Was Wrong with Kathleen Marden, and it's available in June. Get a copy, and any of all of Mr. Friedman's prolific works if you don't already have them. He continues to take action and expand the consciousness of truth seekers everywhere, and it's been an absolute pleasure. With that, we're going to take a station identification break, but stay tuned. There's much more action taking place on the Unified Field. We still have the Exopolitical Pulse, your weekly paranormal news fix, the Sci-Tech news, so don't touch that dial. This is a special Stanton T. Friedman extended version of the Unified Field. I'm your host, Mr. Justin Brown, and this is the Unified Field. Stay tuned.
On clear nights, do you sometimes stare into the sky, wondering, what would radio be like out there in the stars? Well, listen to the Lost Cosmonauts every Monday night at 10:30 p.m. on CKDU 88.1 FM to find out. Each week, your hosts, Kirk Thompson and Zach Shave, bring you eclectic selections from throughout the musical universe. So, tune in this Monday for another exciting episode of the Lost Cosmonauts. Until then, live long and prosper.
Space is the place. Space is the place, yeah. Space is the place.
Do you have a yard you would like to garden, but just don't have the time? Do you live in an apartment and would like to have land to grow your own vegetables? Halifax Landshare partners those who want to garden with those who have the land but can't maintain a garden on their own. Landshare is free and provides access to a map and a list of willing volunteers and locations. Visit www.halifaxlandshare.ca for more information and to register your property. This summer, make new friends and enjoy fresh organic vegetables right from your doorstep.